Do you want to make changes in your life? Perhaps you want to eat healthier, read more books, learn a new language, or learn to play the clarinet. Nonetheless, carrying out and maintaining your plans is difficult. Simply wanting to eat more salad will not result in increased consumption. Similarly, saying you'll read more books doesn't mean you'll choose War and Peace over Netflix binge-watching. However, developing good habits is the key to making positive changes in your life. In the following summary, I will walk you through the main concepts of James Clear's book Atomic Habits, a bestseller on the subject. We will look at how to make significant changes in your life without causing major disruptions. There is no need to drastically alter your behavior or identity. Instead, you can incorporate small changes into your behavior that, over time, can transform into habits that produce significant results. Chapter 1. Let's start with an example. Imagine a plane taking off from Los Angeles to New York. The pilot enters the correct data into the plane's computer, and the plane takes off in the correct direction. However, shortly after takeoff, the pilot unintentionally changes the flight path by 3.5 degrees, or a few feet. As a result, the plane's nose moves slightly to one side, and no one, including the passengers and the pilot, notices anything out of the ordinary. Even minor changes could have a significant impact on their journey across the United States. As a result, when they arrive at their destination, the passengers, and even the pilot, will be perplexed to discover that they have landed in Washington, D.C. rather than New York City. The reason for telling this story is that, like the befuddled pilot, we often overlook the impact of minor changes in our lives. These changes may not have a significant immediate impact. For example, if you are unfit and go for a 20-minute run today, you will not become fit the next day. Similarly, eating a large pizza for dinner will not automatically lead to being overweight. Nonetheless, if we continue to repeat these minor actions on a daily basis, their cumulative effects will result in major outcomes. A year of eating pizza every day could result in significant weight gain, whereas running for 20 minutes every day could eventually result in a leaner and fitter you, even if you don't notice the changes in real time. The main takeaway is that small habits can have a significant impact on your life, even if the effect is not immediately apparent. It can be discouraging to see no immediate positive change, but it is critical to focus on your current trajectory rather than your current results. Assume you have minimal savings in the bank but are consistently putting money aside each month. Your current results may not appear impressive, and your savings may remain modest. However, it's critical to recognize that you're on the right track, and if you keep going, you'll notice a significant improvement in a few months or years. When you're discouraged by the lack of visible progress, remind yourself that you're doing the right things and moving in the right direction. So, how do you get yourself back on track? The solution is to form habits. In the following section, we'll look at how to effectively create habits. Chapter 2. Habits are powerful automatic behaviors that we perform without thinking and play an important role in our everyday lives. When we walk into a dark room, for example, we instinctively reach for a light switch without having to think about it. This is due to the action being repeated so frequently that it has become a habit. Similarly, we have habits that have become automatic over time, such as brushing our teeth and driving a car. In the 1800s, psychologist Edward Thorndike conducted an experiment to investigate habit formation. He put cats in a black box and watched them try to get out. At first, the cats displayed typical exploratory and desperate behaviors, such as clawing at walls and corners. They eventually discovered a lever that opened the door and led to freedom. Thorndike repeated the experiment with the same cats and discovered that they quickly learned to ignore the previous frantic behaviors and go straight for the lever. The cats had become accustomed to escaping from the box. Thorndike concluded from this experiment that behaviors with satisfying outcomes, such as gaining freedom, are more likely to be repeated until they become automatic habits. Our understanding of habits has grown since then, and we now know that they are made up of 4 distinct elements. The first is a cue, which serves as a signal to begin a behavior. Entering a dark room, for example, causes the need to turn on the light. This is followed by a desire or craving for a specific outcome or state, such as a desire to look around. The response or behavior itself, such as flipping the light switch, comes next. Finally, the outcome or feeling that results from the behavior, such as the satisfaction and relief of being able to see, is the reward. Habit formation is a consistent process, as demonstrated by the morning coffee routine. The act of waking up acts as a cue, triggering a desire for alertness. As a result, you get out of bed and make coffee, giving you the impression that you are fully awake and ready to face the day. Now that we know how habits form, let's look at how we can develop positive habits that have the potential to improve our lives. Chapter 3. Now that we've identified the 4 components of a habit, a cue, a craving, a response, and a reward, we can start thinking about how we can put this knowledge to use. We can develop new habits that are positive, productive, and long-term by learning how to manipulate these components. Consider someone who wants to learn to play the guitar as an example. They have the instrument and some basic knowledge, but they struggle to maintain consistent practice. Despite their intentions to play later in the day, they frequently do not play at all. However, armed with habit-building knowledge, there is a solution. The desire to play the guitar can be turned into a habit by making the cue to practice more visible. Instead of storing the guitar in a cupboard or a remote room, place it in the center of the living room, where it is visible and impossible to overlook. This makes it easier to carry out the intention to practice, resulting in a habit that is more likely to stick. Changing your environment to make your cues more visible is a good place to start if you want to improve the effectiveness of your triggers. To take it a step further, you can use a technique known as implementation intentions. But what exactly does this term mean? Many people fail to set specific and clear intentions when it comes to developing good habits. Vague goals, such as "I'm going to eat healthier" or "I'm going to learn to play the guitar," lack a plan of action, leaving too much room for procrastination or abandonment. This is where the implementation intentions come into play. By providing a clear plan of action, these intentions help you move beyond vague goals. They assist you in determining when and where you will carry out the habit you wish to develop. So, let's return to the guitar example. Instead of telling yourself that you'll practice guitar sometime this week, make a specific implementation intention for yourself. For example, on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, right after my alarm goes off, I'll pick up my guitar and practice for an hour. Remember to keep your guitar visible in the middle of the room to make it even easier to follow through. It's natural to wonder if making small changes to your environment and setting implementation intentions will make a difference after learning about the habit-forming process. However, research indicates that these strategies can be extremely effective. Indeed, studies have shown that people who make specific plans and visualize themselves carrying out a habit are more likely to carry it out. So, in a nutshell, changing your environment and making specific plans can help you develop positive habits that stick. However, you must put forth some effort and commitment on your part. We can look at the work of Boston-based Dr. Anne Thorndike to see if the habit-forming technique works in practice. Dr. Thorndike faced the same challenge as many other healthcare providers, assisting her patients in improving their diets and snacking habits. She recognized that making a conscious effort to eat healthier is difficult, requiring enormous willpower and discipline, both of which are scarce resources for many people. Dr. Thorndike and her colleagues tested the effectiveness of creating cues to encourage healthy habits. They rearranged the hospital cafeteria, substituting bottled water for soda near the cash registers and placing baskets of water bottles throughout the space. Over the course of 3 months, they observed an 11% decrease in soda sales while increasing water sales by more than 25%. Dr. Thorndike and her team were able to help people adopt better habits without requiring them to make a conscious decision by creating more cues to drink water. This is compelling evidence that changing one's environment can help one develop healthier habits. Chapter 4. As we near the halfway point of our Atomic Habits study, we've already delved into the power of habits, their formation, and how cues can help us develop habits. Let us now turn our attention to the rewards aspect of habit formation. In 1954, neuroscientists James Olds and Peter Milner conducted an experiment to investigate the neuroscience of desire. They used electrodes to inhibit dopamine release in some rats. The results were concerning. The lab rats had lost their will to live. Without dopamine, they had no desire to eat, drink, mate, or engage in any other activity. All of the rats died of thirst within a few days. This upsetting incident emphasizes the importance of dopamine as a motivator. Dopamine is released when we do something beneficial to our survival, such as eating or drinking, and this gives us a sense of pleasure. This pleasant sensation encourages us to perform the beneficial action repeatedly. We know that dopamine is important in motivating us to repeat behaviors that help us survive. But how does this relate to habit formation? We don't have to engage in a pleasurable activity to experience dopamine's release in order to use it to form new habits. In fact, just thinking about pleasure causes our dopamine levels to rise. We are much more likely to stick to our new habits if we make them enjoyable. This is where tempting bundling comes into play. It entails connecting an important but unappealing behavior to an appealing behavior. Ronan Byrne, an engineering student from Ireland, used this technique to connect his boring workout routine to his Netflix addiction. He wrote code that prevented Netflix from running unless he cycled at a certain speed. In doing so, he turned a disliked activity into a pleasurable one. We can apply this technique in our own lives by committing to only reading magazines at the gym or promising ourselves a half hour of ESPN after completing a certain number of sales calls. We can experience a dopamine rush and form positive habits by making unpleasant tasks enjoyable. Chapter 5. Making a habit enjoyable to perform is a great way to incorporate it into our routine. However, by simplifying the desired behavior, we can make the habit-building process easier. Simple activities like social media browsing or snacking are more appealing because they do not require much effort, whereas difficult tasks like language learning or intense exercise are less appealing. We increase the likelihood of incorporating desired habits into our daily routine by making them as simple as possible. One method is to reduce friction, which means making the process as smooth and simple as possible. Consider James Clear, who struggles to send greeting cards while his wife never forgets an occasion. She prepares by keeping a box of pre-sorted greeting cards at home, making it easier to send congratulations or condolences when necessary. This reduces the friction associated with sending a greeting card. Friction is a two-sided process, which means we can increase or decrease it to aid or hinder habit formation. For example, if we want to watch less television, we can unplug it and take the batteries out of the remote. This creates enough friction to make us reconsider watching TV, allowing us to break the bad habit. Second, the 2-minute rule is a useful approach for making a habit easier to maintain in the long run. The idea behind this method is to break down any new activity into a habit that can be completed in 2 minutes or less. Set a goal of reading 1 book per week, for example, if you want to read more. Instead, aim to read no more than 2 pages per night. Similarly, if you want to run a marathon, make it a habit to put on your running gear after work every day. The 2-minute rule is a practical method for developing habits that can lead to greater accomplishments. You're more likely to continue with the task at hand once you've taken the small step of putting on your running shoes or reading 2 pages. Simply getting started is a critical first step toward achieving your objectives. Chapter 6. As we near the end, there is one more rule to consider when it comes to using habits to improve your life. I'll use the story of Stephen Luby, a highly accomplished public health researcher, to demonstrate this rule. Luby was working in a Karachi, Pakistan neighborhood in the 1990s and excelling at his job. He was able to significantly reduce diarrhea among local children by 52%. In addition, he reduced the rate of pneumonia by 48% and the rate of skin infections by 35%. What was the secret to Luby's extraordinary success? It was surprisingly straightforward: nice soap. Luby recognized the importance of hand washing and basic sanitation in reducing illness in the neighborhood where he worked. While the locals were aware of the importance of hand washing, they struggled to make it a habit. That all changed when Luby partnered with Procter & Gamble to provide free high-quality soap to the community. Hand washing became an enjoyable activity almost immediately as a result of the new soap's pleasant fragrance and easy lathering. As a result, residents began regularly washing their hands, and Luby's public health achievements followed. Stephen Luby's story highlights an important aspect of behavioral change. For a habit to stick, it must be enjoyable. However, due to our evolutionary history, making good habits enjoyable can be difficult. As our distant ancestors were focused on finding their next meal or escaping predators, our brains are wired to prioritize immediate rewards over long-term benefits. This can lead to the development of bad habits, such as smoking, which provide instant gratification but have long-term negative consequences. When attempting to establish habits with delayed rewards, it is critical to find ways to link them to immediate gratification. A couple, for example, who wants to eat out less and save money could open a savings account called Trip to Europe and deposit $50 into it every time they avoid eating out. This way, they got an immediate sense of accomplishment from seeing their savings grow, which gave them the motivation they needed to stick to their long-term goals of cooking more and eating healthier. Chapter 7. After learning how to form good habits, it's important to recognize that maintaining them, no matter how enjoyable they are, can be difficult. As a result, in this final chapter, we will look at effective strategies for sticking to our good intentions. Habit tracking is a tried and true method for making new habits stick. This entails keeping track of your adherence to specific behaviors, and many successful people have done so throughout history. Beginning at the age of 20, Benjamin Franklin, for example, kept a notebook in which he tracked his progress in adhering to 13 personal virtues such as avoiding trivial conversation and remaining productive. Each night, he would keep track of his progress in each area. To incorporate habit tracking into your life, you can use a simple calendar or diary to mark off the days when you successfully maintain your chosen behaviors. This method can be very effective because habit tracking can become a positive and gratifying habit in and of itself. The anticipation and physical act of marking off each day can be extremely rewarding and keep you motivated to pursue your goals. Another effective strategy for ensuring habit maintenance is to create a habit contract that includes negative consequences if you fail to follow through on your commitments. For example, Brian Harris, a Nashville entrepreneur, took this approach and created a detailed contract with his wife and personal trainer to reach his goal of losing 200 pounds. He identified specific habits that would help him achieve his goal, such as tracking his daily food intake and weighing himself once a week, and established penalties for failing to perform these actions. If he failed to track his food intake, he would owe his trainer $100, and if he failed to weigh himself, he would owe his wife $500. This method worked for Harris because he was motivated by the fear of losing money and failing to meet the expectations of two important people in his life. Because humans are social creatures who care about what others think, knowing that others are watching you can be a powerful motivator for success. Even if your habit contract isn't as elaborate as Brian Harris's, it's worth considering. You can make a promise to your significant other, best friend, or coworker and agree on consequences if you don't follow through. This increases your chances of sticking to your habits significantly. And, as we've already established, sticking to positive habits, no matter how minor, is a surefire way to achieve significant life accomplishments. In conclusion, small behavioral changes may not have an immediate transformative impact on your life. However, if these changes become daily habits, they can lead to significant long-term changes. Rather than focusing on major breakthroughs or overhauling your entire routine, the key to success is developing positive habits that, when combined, produce remarkable results. To that end, my final piece of advice is to introduce new behaviors through habit stacking. If you find it difficult to make time for a new habit, try stacking it on top of an existing habit that you already do effortlessly every day, such as drinking coffee in the morning. Commit to meditating after you finish your coffee each morning, for example, and use the momentum from your existing habit to build your new routine.